So for this example, we're going to do an online survey. We're going to send out an online survey to all the medical practices in a particular area based on a sample and collect some information that will help us to validate the market. So in your case, you could create an online survey and send it out. Find the list of people that would be your potential target, and that's where you would actually start. All right, so this is what the process looks like. So you start here, then you define the problem, which we have already done. Remember the first couple slides where we were defining the problem, the root cause. So we have already done this. So after doing that, we move to the next. My light is so dim. Oh. We move to the next phase, which is there a market? And we're answering this through our survey that we would have sent out. Is there a market? And how we determine if there's a market? Because we're looking at the size, how many practices are there? Are they experiencing this problem? If it is no, then the process ends. The idea is killed and we move on. If it is yes, then we look at what is the size of the market. If the market is too small, and this is going to be dependent on the industry or what exactly you're looking at, and what I mean is, if the market is too small, meaning there's no real money to be made. If you're not going to make money, the opportunity isn't big enough for you to scale and employ people and income replacement, depending on what your purpose is to be in business. If it is too small, the process ends as well. If you feel as if the market opportunity is large enough for you to pursue, then you move on to the next step, which is, are they starving for a solution? So in your online survey or your research instrument that you would have sent out, you would have asked, would you like to solve this problem? What are ways in which, you want to tackle this problem? All of that. So from your online survey, if you feel like more people are saying, yes, I want to solve this problem, I'm frustrated, I'm losing money, then you move to the yes. If it is a no, the process ends. So you see how many different points that the process is ending? And just be mindful of that, guys, when you're doing your market validation. If it is a yes, then you're looking at, are they willing to pay? And how do you know if they're willing to pay? You would have asked them this question as well in your survey. And if majority of the folks are willing to pay, then you're going to move to the next stage, which would be the idea validation stage, which we're not going to touch today. All right, so here's my example, because I feel when I'm doing anything, it just works better when people are able to see an example. So if after I've done a Google search, I find, or maybe I purchase a report and I found that there is in fact 1 million medical practices. And it may be small medical practices, because this is a low number. It may be a small medical practices in the US. So small, I may be defining as a practice that has 1 to 3 doctors working there. That's what I'm defining maybe as small. And there's 1 million. I may say, I can reach all these people to ask them the questions that I need to ask in my survey. It's almost impossible. So what I'll do is to take a sample. And here I'm looking at a sample size of 1.25%. Is that a baseline? No. Is that a market standard? No. I just chose 1.25%. However, when you're choosing your sample, it could be random sampling or whatever approach that you're going to use, understand what is the rationale behind the approach that you're taking. But I feel as if a sample of 1.25% will give me enough information to be able to make a informed decision about the market itself. So my sample size is 1.25%. I get my survey together, my online survey together. I may be using SurveyMonkey, or I may be using a simple Google form, depending on where you are, what your budget is like. With SurveyMonkey, it only allows, the free version only allows you 10 free questions. So you may want to get a subscription so that you can have an in-depth survey to get the information that you actually need. So you can ask more than 10 questions. That's what I'm saying in essence. So this sample size of 1.25% represents 12,500 surveys need to be sent. And that's a lot of surveys. So I'm using online surveys. I'm not gonna do an interview. I don't have time nor resources to do 12,500 interviews. And that's the thing, guys. You need to think about your limitations, your budget. All of that needs to play in and factor here as to what it is that you can do and what you're unable to do in terms of limitations. So I'm going to do an online survey, as I said before. Now, I know, and this is really, that the response rate is going to be anywhere between 10 to 15%. And what the response rate is, how many people are going to actually fill out your survey and return your survey to you. And this, in fact, is a baseline, guys. So when you're doing this type of research, you have to think about how many responses do I need? And on the basis of how many responses that you need, then that's how you determine how many surveys need to be sent, which would go back into your sample. So you see how it makes sense? So I want to have at the end to be able to analyze at least 1,250 surveys. I'm feeling that it will give me sufficient information so that I can make an informed decision at this point. So this is just a walkthrough for you to understand. So you look at the market size, how many potential customers or clients there are out there that have this need. You then drill down further by looking at your sample, and through your sample, you send out your surveys or you conduct your interviews, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then what type of response rate are you expecting? All right, guys. So I sent out my survey in theory, and this is how I'm now able to determine the initial questions that I had going in. You remember when these questions here? All right. So now I have answers for these questions. So based on my survey that I sent, I was able to identify that at least 10,000 patients per year are missing their appointments. That sounds like a lot. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, cha-ching, ching, might be an opportunity here. And then of all the respondents, so our total respondents were 1,250, at least 70% of them are experiencing this problem, which is at 875. Now, how much money are they losing? So I must be able to determine that, because if I can provide a solution and they can save money, then that will work for them. So in this case, if say the user fee for you to go to see the doctor, you pay $150. And maybe what you're seeing is your copay of 20. Praise God, you pay your $20 you're paying your $20 copay, and then your insurance paying that $130, because this is the average user fee. Now, So if 150 is the user fee, and at least on average 10,000 patients are missing their appointments, we know based on our sample that the total loss in revenue is at least 1.5 million. And at this point, depending on your industry, it may be worth you pursuing. If not, if your industry is speaking in billions, then this might not be worth much to them. But if the industry itself is in millions, meaning, you know, they're still in that range, then this amount may be very much significant. So you may choose to move forward into the idea validation stage, because you would have now validated that there is in fact a market for the problem that you've identified and a possible solution, which you have not clearly defined what that solution is. But in the next step, that's where you would be going in the idea stage to determine what could be the possible solution to this particular problem. All right, guys. So here are some research resources. So if it's primary research, most of you know what primary research is. It's developing a research for a specific purpose. So in this case, if I develop an online survey that is for the purpose of collecting information about this particular market, what I'm dealing with, then that's primary. So the data that I'm receiving is for this intended purpose. That's the reason why I'm collecting it. So with the online surveys, you have SurveyMonkey, you can use Google Forms, and those are my favorites. So that's the reason why I put them at the top of the list. Then you have SoGo surveys, Typeform, and the list goes on. On the primary research, depending on the size of your market and the size of your sample, you may also choose to do interviews, which could be, you know, telephone interviews, which I don't have here. It could be focus groups, or you could do test marketing or observation as well, depending on the nature of your industry and what it is that the information that you're trying to retrieve from the market to make your decision. Now, if you're taking the secondary route, guys, and let me tell you, at this point, you have to do some primary stuff. You have to get some information on the primary side. So if you are afraid of speaking to people and you're afraid of sending, you know, these emails out, these cold emails or warm emails or whatever it is because of rejection, you're going to have a problem. There's no way you can pursue entrepreneurship or any type of venture without putting yourself out there, unless you have a partner and, you know, that's your partner's job, but you're going to need to do some of this work. So on the secondary side, you can go to US Small Business Administration. They have so many resources, guys, and tons of reports about different industries that you can find there. The only problem is with these reports, if you don't know how to make it applicable to what you're doing, you may have some problem. So if you don't, you need to seek some help from someone who would be able to assist you with that. Like make sense of some of these reports. If you're not a numbers person, you're gonna have some problem. Oof. And the US Census Bureau, they too have information on their site. And for Jamaica, Planning Institute of Jamaica, they have tons of reports there as well that you can download into Excel, manipulate, do what you need to do. If you do have a small budget and you want to be more purposeful, Blue Dot Insights, they are very good in the digital space, and they provide a lot of market information and intelligence as well. For those in South Africa, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, they have tons of industry reports there as well, and the Bureau of Economic Research. So I just wanted to provide something tangible